there, listeners. Are you feeling the weight of the world? Well, you're not alone. The U.S. Surgeon General says nearly 50% of parents are overwhelmed by stress. And guess what? It's affecting us all. Just last year, we heard about an epidemic of loneliness hitting half our population, especially young adults. But there's hope. I'm Scarlett Lewis, founder of the Choose Love movement. We're dedicated to your safety, health, and well-being with proactive mental health strategies. Imagine a life where stress and loneliness are replaced by joy and connection. We've already reached millions with essential life skills to prevent violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. Want to join this life-changing movement? It's easy. Visit chooselovemovement.org today. Become a member, spread the word, and access our free resources. Together, we can create a loving, supportive community. Remember, all the nurturing, healing love you give comes back to you tenfold. Thank you for choosing love.
I choose love. I choose love. Hey, hey. Hey, 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 oh.
The Choose Love movement offers no-cost solutions that keep our kids safe, providing them with the skills and tools they need to flourish. Join us in our mission to create the world we want to live in, one that's connected and compassionate. Check us out at chooselovemovement.org. Together, we can choose love.
Hey, everybody. My name is Scarlett Lewis. Welcome to the Choose Love podcast, where we explore ways to push the envelope to being the best version of ourselves. And that's not just for us, that is for those around us and really society as a whole. And today I have a really interesting person for you to meet. His name is John Winstanley. He is an advisor, speaker, and acting executive director of Fort Safety. So I love when it says in your bio that you became determined to use your life to shine a light of hope and healing into the dark places in society. Wow. And everybody who's listening to this knows that that's where we have to go within ourselves and within society in order to make the world a safer, more peaceful and loving place. And so I always like to make the connection between the person I'm speaking to and Choose Love, and everybody that's listening that is a follower of Choose Love is going, aha, okay, now. And John has an incredible story, of course, as most people do who are really passionate about this work and doing great things in the world, which you're doing, John. And you have a message and an organization that I think is really important for the audience of Choose Love to know about and to follow and to learn from. So, and some pretty interesting topics that are hard to discuss. And that I have to say, I didn't discuss, I don't think, with my sons. And the need is becoming more and more, because the problem is becoming more prevalent. And as our world changes, so do the conversations have to change that we have with our children and loved ones and those that we care about. And there are different things that we have to confront these days. So you are helping us do that work, and I'm very appreciative.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to say hello, Choose Love Nation, all you guys out there. We were talking pre-show last week, and we're just so excited. I don't want to overpromise, but I think this little conversation that we're about to have it can change lives. And that's what both of our organizations are about. Fort Safety's mission is from day one has been about protecting kids and strengthening families. And that was just a mission that who can be against that, right?
Sounds good.
um,
That's why I named Choose Love, Choose Love. Who could be against that?
exactly. Well, exactly on the
Yeah.
money. That's what I was. That would have been a better thing to say. But yeah, that's why we're so excited. Scarlett and I just met last week, and we're already best buds, bud bets.
Mhm.
And the reason why we started talking about we're going to have this conversation is Fort Safety is focused on protecting kids and strengthening families from digital threats and toxic cyber behaviors. And everyone in and I know you will probably listen to this on a phone, so I know that's very ironic. But yeah, a little bit about my background. I'm a kind of a weird onion. I have a weird accent. I was born in England, lived in Germany for a while, came to the States in '84, lived in Maryland, and then I moved to Indiana, and then I came, and now I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So in case you're playing along at home, that makes me an Anglo-Germanic American Yankee Hoosier redneck. And that last piece is because I'm from England, I live in the South, so I sunburn very, very, very easy. So I have to get that out of the way because a lot of people have look at me strange. Are you from New England, Australia? What's this accent from? So yeah, every once in a while, we talked about this. Every once in a while, I'll say words like raspberry or garage or something like that, and it just all comes out. But I'm a civil engineer by training, which is weird that I now started a nonprofit, and I'm a digital addiction coach, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But the story all started when my son in 2008, I got him off a school bus, and he was looking at the ground. He was the last one off the school bus. He didn't look at me, and he made a beeline for our house, which is about two houses down. So I caught up to him, and I put my hand on his shoulder and spun him around, got to his eye level, and I go, Bud, what's wrong? Well, long story short, he had been shown adult content by another student on that elementary school bus. He was eight or nine, and this was only a year or so after the iPhone came out. So already this new technology had infiltrated, a school bus, and my son had been exposed to content that I didn't think I'd have to worry about yet. And I think that's a common um, feeling for parents and grandparents these days. We just not aware. As you know, Scarlett, I mean, that feeling of not being there to protect your kid from physical or mental harm is an awful one. And I kind of channeled that into, I'm going to solve this problem, this new technology, these cell phones. I've got to do something, right? So I just did a deep dive in all things technical, and it became like a, a backseat technology, internet safety parent. But as all with a lot of things, realities I didn't have the guts to go out on my own and do this. I was the primary provider still for our family. So that information just kind of sat there. And it wasn't until a couple of years later, my second child, Laura, who was born with a genetic disorder called mitochondrial disorder. Some of you out there might have heard of this or experienced this, but she gave us 7 beautiful years, little Laura Gwen Winstanley. And she finally succumbed to the disease. But her funeral on April 1st, it's coming up, her anniversary is next week as we record this, was standing room only, Scarlett. We've talked about this, like this little girl that never said a word in her life, confined to a wheelchair, but fought that disease the best way she knew how. And it was standing room only, and all these people started getting up on the stage and shared wonderful stories with us parents, about what my daughter had done for them. And I had this just epiphany. And Scarlett, you might have probably could tell an equal similar story with yours, the story. Our children are inspirational, and I wanted to, uh, if my daughter could change so many people's lives by what she did, then why can't I, with a voice and all this, why could I do the same? So that was the moment that the idea for Fort Safety was birthed. And my ex-wife Melanie needed something too, because she'd been taking care of Laura 24/7. So we flip-flopped. She went back to work and gave me permission to start this vision. And I was a stay-at-home father for our son Kyle, who just graduated from Augusta University. Yes, that Kyle, the other son. And get this, as irony, his degree is cybersecurity engineering. So he took.
Oh my gosh, I wonder where he got that idea from.
Yes, and I just heard this brand new news. You don't know this yet, yeah, but he got his first job. He's going to be a network administrator, making sure our power grid and internet is safe. So, hello, world.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was the start of it, Scarlett. So I don't know if we want to dive in, but there's so many stories that came out of it, and I don't know if you want do you want to, while I was talking, was there anything you kind of overlap with the Choose Love and all that good stuff? How did that,
Well, yeah, there's so much overlap. But do you have your own experience of overcoming bullying? You're speaking from, it's one thing to stand up in front of people and start an organization and speak kind of intellectually, but when you have your own story of all of these things woven together, of depression and addiction, obviously you have significant loss that drove you as it drove me. I think part of that is getting over the fear of starting out on your own and starting an organization. And I obviously had to do that as well. But once you have lost a child, it's like, and they have acted so courageously, especially, in their young life, like your daughter and like Jesse did. It's like, well, I can do almost what I figured was like the easy part, and that's get up and speak about it. And,
Right.
Now that the light has been shown on what the issues are, and try to provide the best solution possible, which is what we're both doing. But do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about your own story in that?
Sure.
I mean, I think it lays the foundation
Yeah,
for
yeah.
your
And
incredible credibility, because you're definitely working with people that have addiction, pornography addiction, and different things like that. But you're coming from a place of really understanding, but not only that, but having the credibility of having overcome something that's very difficult to overcome. I mean, I don't know what this, I don't know exactly the statistics, but I think that they're not very good right now, as
yeah,
I think from what I've
for those
read.
listening, we're all both doing the little rabbit ears, not very good.
Right.
Yeah, and just as a heads up for those listening, yeah, we're going to talk about the dark side of the internet, which includes, the red light districts, as you mentioned, the pornography. But please, if you have little ears in the car with you, it's okay. We're going to talk about it in that's what I've made my living at. I'm able to talk about these topics in front of middle schoolers and all that. But yeah, so I guess when I told you I didn't have the guts to, after Kyle was shown the pornography on the school bus, I used the fact that I was the breadwinner as an excuse not to quit. But there was something underlying in that. I was, a former addict of, I was a digital content pornography. myself. As the English kid in a German school or America, I've had experienced, the bullying and being the one I felt like stuck out. And a lot of what comes with that, the imprinting and the shame and the guilt. And back when in 2009, I wasn't ready yet to let that junk come out. And I think every single one of us has that. We've got two faces that we show the world. No, actually, we show the world one face, but we have a filter on, and it's not our true selves. And it wasn't until my daughter gave me that courage to go, you know what? So be it. If that's my lot in life, I'm going to talk about my addiction. And even that, I think it's almost because the word pornography and all that is almost, they joke about it now on sitcoms, on primetime TV. I think last time I caught like the Family Feud, I think it was one of the, the little questions. That's on a, ABC Disney owned channel. So this thing has become, I think because of our cell phones, it's become almost no longer as big a taboo as it was. But yeah, Fort Safety, I use Fort Safety to educate local schools and churches and men's groups and women's groups about the destructive power of what we're seeing on our phones. Our brains are, neuroplasticity is the name. Our brains are constantly changing. Like Scarlett, I'm gonna mess with your brain right now. Imagine, if you would, a pink elephant jumping up and down on one foot wearing a Purdue sweatshirt. Now, in your brain, because we're neuroplastic, I'm sorry I had to do that, but there is a neuron that
I can't
has a
believe I
little
had
label.
room to do that, by the way, but I did.
Yes, and I could do with it all, but you have the power. Like, I want to remember that little pink elephant jumping on one foot wearing a Purdue sweatshirt, and of course Purdue is in the Sweet 16, so I had to bring up my alma mater. But yeah, so I've just made something from nothing. I created a neuron, electro impulse that sits in your brain that didn't exist before. And that's constantly happening in our brain. Our brains are constantly thin. And we talk
And you know
about
what? Maybe that explains, like, while you're talking, I remember the first time that I saw pornography. And
yes.
It was my dad had this red Corvette. And I don't know, I was pretending to drive in it, but I was way too young to be driving. And and I think I was in there with my little girlfriend, and she was and we looked in the back, and there were a bunch of papers, and we pulled this magazine out, and it was a Playboy. And so we started looking at it. I remember in graphic detail the image that we saw. And I think we were we were in grade school. And I was so shocked at that image. I'd never seen, I'd seen naked bodies before, like in my own family, but never pornography. And I remember every detail of it today. And I don't want to remember it, but I do. And that's the power, I think, of pornography. Like, you see these images and you can't unsee them. And that's what bothers me about this. As I scroll through different social medias and porn pops up, and it's like, I don't want it, but you see it and you can't unsee it. And what was the effect on our kids?
Correct, because they're getting exposed to it earlier and earlier and earlier. In fact, I'm in the process right now, and in case there's somebody out there, I'm looking to connect with an elementary school teacher that has some curriculum experience. I have the ideas, but first graders now are getting iPhones or cell phones with no filters and no supervision, and that's the kind of stuff. Back to the point, Scarlett, when you saw that those images or that image, would you say is almost like it tattooed itself on your brain? How would
Yes.
you explain it?
I mean, I'm 54 years old, or, however old I am. And that was when I was in second or third grade. And I
Hmm.
remember in detail that image, and I don't want to.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, it's like the scientists call that like a flashbulb memory. And you and I had discussion last week that that's why I'm a proponent in the social emotional learning sphere, that the internet, what our kids are seeing on their phones can be considered to be, a life-altering event. Like if those flashbulb memories that they're seeing, adverse childhood experiences, right? Talking your language there.
oh my gosh.
Um,
And listen, I mean, so gosh, our phone can give us an adverse childhood experience just by viewing what you can access on your phone. That
right.
is so crazy.
Yeah, and I think you talked about the books out there now, Mr. Hoyt, what's that book called that you mentioned that I read? Actually, I'm starting to read that halfway through, but just the effects of the like button and the new
Jonathan
generation, and
Haidt's Anxious Generation.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
The
Great
dopamine
book.
receptors in our brain and how it works on that,
Right.
similar to addiction. So I've been calling this a crack pipe. And I know,
Hmm.
people laugh and everything, but I really think that it is dangerous to a certain degree. If you don't know how to use it and you don't use it responsibly, there's so many in my own family that are addicted to the phone. And I think they don't access pornography, but it's political memes and things like that I get all day long from them. And they can't
Yeah.
stop.
Right. And that's to get my audience's attention. I again, I don't point my finger at my audiences, and be it students, parents, educators. I have different workshops, and where we give them solutions. By the way, those listening, I think we're all about the problem right now, but we will actually talk about some solutions here in a bit. There are
Awesome.
solutions.
Yeah.
But I, as a former addict, I don't necessarily lead with that, but I do sometimes end with that. And I tell of my story, and how I've been sober now for over 20 years. And based on that, I've been able to create my own highly effective, if I may pat myself on the back, digital addiction coaching program, where I get folks that are just that were in the same boat I was, out of that addiction. And by me being honest and open, it allows my people in the audience to then connect their messes. And it doesn't have to be pornography. It could be, childhood experiences or anxiety, depression, with my uh, problems, and then it helps them get help. And a lot of times that's when I get people wanting to talk about, look, I may be, I'm worried I might get a divorce, or my children are obsessed. I can't get them off of their phones. What do I do? Just the changes that are happening in the family dynamic. Instead of watching TV, we're watching the TV and maybe 3 or 4 other screens. You're right.
By
Just
ourselves. And then we're all,
right.
yeah, but we have our phones at the dinner table, and we ask our kids, even in schools, they're saying, check your phone in, and no phones during the day. But that's not what we're willing to do. And
Mhm.
we don't have a handle on our own digital use. And so what we say is like, just take it away. Just take it away during the day. But that's not teaching kids how to use it and in the highest and best way. And because we don't understand how to do that now.
Yes, and that's because when I first started uh, talking about this, Ford Safety was created in 2012. Um, I was speaking to parents in our generation, Scarlett, but now I'm talking to the millennials, even starting with the Gen Zs, who they themselves were raised by technology. So it's a multi-generational thing. One of the things about the nonprofit tearjerker moment, I had a young lady reach out to me recently. Her name's Rachel. She's now on my board of directors, but she was one of the teenagers during one of my very first talks way back when I first started. And I didn't know at the time, but she was really struggling. And she reached out to me recently, last year, and said, "John, I'm married now. I just live up the street. You were the first one that told me it was okay not to be okay, and you were the first one to expose the fact that what happens on our phones doesn't control us, that I was still beautiful and I was still wanted and I was still needed, and that the content on my phone wasn't anyway. You saved my life, or you changed my life, and I want to give back." And I said, "Well, come on board."
Yeah.
So Fort Safety Now is a multi-generational nonprofit that just
That's really
for
cool.
all the nonprofit folks out there, that's a great, you love that. The
Yes,
people that you helped generations ago and now actually leading the same organization.
that's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, and to this is the one that we touched on it briefly, but what do we do with
Yeah,
that thing when we're watching TV, but everyone's on their phones? Another book came out, and when it came out in 2017, it's by Andy Crouch. It's called Tech Wise Family, and maybe we'll put a link in the podcast, but um, he recommended something that I installed in my thing. He in his living room in front of the TV, he just had a table, and on that table were jigsaw puzzles, coloring books, instruments, and that's what his kids played with while they were watching TV. And I did it. Well, you remember during lockdown when we're all doing jigsaw puzzles, it just kind of stuck. I had like a hobby table and I color or I build models. And the great thing about this book, and I don't agree with everything in it, you went really hardcore anti-tech, and we'll talk about that in a second, what I think should be the solution. But the foreword was written by one of his children, Amy Crouch. And if I may, real quick,
yeah.
thanks to tech-wise parenting, I've discovered a world out there that is better than any technology can offer, as close as our front lawn. I'll be honest though, if you're hoping that being tech-wise will neatly eliminate technology's harmful influences from your children's life, you're going to be set up for disappointment. I haven't been able to escape the pitfalls, and she goes on and talks about. So that's a great point. We can do everything right as parents, everything, like follow SEL and my workshops, but our kids will still be exposed to something, and that's the moment we have to speak into ahead of time. Have a plan before it happens, kind of like a fire drill, right? You go through a fire drill before it happens. So having conversations with our children. So two-part step is putting healthy digital boundaries in place. And then once the technology is kind of controlled, then let's looking into starting conversations.
And you have to do that number two, because I just did a podcast with a parent who had all of that control in place. She had something she put on her phone, and she managed whatever the kids looked at and all of the apps. And still, I know kids can get around those. And this was an app that she allowed on her child's phone that eventually led to his death. And so like, yes, those controls, but as I said, like, you got to have the conversation. And these are really tough conversations that are hard for parents to have. I know even with, like school shootings, parents don't want to have those conversations. Even parents in Sandy Hook after the shooting didn't want to have the conversations with their kids. And it's conversations that we have to have because they're having them on the bus with each other, really, really young. And when the people that are supposed to keep them safe don't have these conversations and don't know, it's it erodes trust. And trust is the basis of relationships. And so really important that we get our courage on to have these conversations. And like, how do you do that?
Yes, that's the number one question I get in my workshops is how do I do that? How do I have the, people call it the conversation, but it's not the conversation. It is an ever evolving conversation as the children get older that gets more and more complex. The easy solution, parents, grandparents, teachers, is you give what the world gives you, situations. Your mom, maybe you're in the checkout aisle of your local grocery supermarket, and you notice that your 5 or 6 year old is staring at one of the magazines. Maybe it's a Cosmopolitan or something, where it's a young lady doesn't have very many clothes on, let's say, and what you do there is you say, little Timmy, let's say it's a boy, little Timmy, when we get dressed at home or we use the restroom, we give each other privacy, respect, right? Well, we did, so that lady right there, she needs some respect and privacy herself. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that magazine around, and we're going to give her respect and privacy. And for that little young child, it sets up this concept that not all visual things, images, they need to be controlled, and B, it teaches them about respect and purity and why you close doors and privacy at home. For the older generations, it's difficult for parents, but I use we're here in Atlanta, so I always ask my audiences, how many of you been driven down 75 to go to Orlando, to see Disney World and all that? And lots of hands go up. And I've made it a hobby of mine to count all the billboards in between Atlanta and Orlando that advertise adult establishments, be it bookstores or bars and stuff like that.
That's a good point. Those are all over, and I don't even think about those now. But
yeah. So okay, visual here. So we're parents driving that car in the front, and we're going past these billboards, and we're going, I know my kid has an A in English, but they're not looking at those billboards. They're not, nope. But our kids are in the back, and guess what? They're looking at those billboards. So
just
that's
like
the perfect opportunity.
Just like we are.
But we're not talking about them, right? So you ask open-ended questions. That's a perfect opportunity for us as a parent to kind of ask opening question. Okay, you turn off the radios, there's no distractions. What is that place? And you start a conversation. Who works there? Why would you work there? Do we still love the people that work there? If you work there, how would you want to be handled or helped? What is their great one? Because I think the big thing against social media is to get your kids actively involved, let them know they can physically change the world around them. If we wanted to do something about those establishments, what would we do? How do we start a nonprofit? Those are just great. I mean, any other conversation starters that you could think of, Scarlett, with your stuff?
I love the switch that you made from, asking what you think that is, like, to kind of gauge their knowledge. What is XXX when you see that, and because they're going to be seeing that all over. And then switching that to solution oriented, or, using critical thinking skills, and then turning it around to, and this is what I would think, because you don't want to demonize the people that work there. And you do want to show compassion and understanding, and what do you think they need? Why, and I really like that, because I wouldn't have thought of that piece.
And it's the same with all right, so even older kids, you're watching TV, and one of these primetime TV shows, the main character just meet someone, and they hop in bed, or have relations already. You use the pause button on that DVR thing that you got, and you look at your hormone-filled teenager, girl or boy, and you ask them, how would you feel if you were that girl? Is that how does what you just saw align with our family values? Do you agree with that? Is that a great thing? Put them in the story, but don't let your hormone-filled teenager go to bed with those images in their mind without first giving them an opportunity to digest or filter them through their parents, because studies after studies, such studies show children want to hear from their parents. You think they want to get it from the internet or games or stuff, but they want information about relationships and sexuality and stuff from the caregivers, and that's yeah, and that becomes key.
And then they feel seen too, because attention is the purest form of love, and watching TV together and consuming this is not attention. Your attention is on something else. But if you pause it and then you start having a conversation with your kid, that's a really great thing. Is like, how do you consume this information? Are you thoughtful about it? Are you actually thinking about it instead of mindlessly consuming it and accepting it and allowing it to go in? And as we know, change your brain, which it does. Instead, put a little barrier between it and you choose how what you're watching is absorbed by you, because you do have your family and your character and those values that are instilled in you. And I love that thoughtfulness about it.
Yeah, and while we're on that topic of, in that situation, I hate to talk about, makes it sound like us Gen Xers like, when I went to school, I had to walk up and down a hill just weering clogs and 16 feet.
I found myself saying that, and my son laughs, who's 24, because I think, I think it shows my age, but I said that the other day. Oh my gosh, when I visited where I grew up as an elementary school student, and I drove the path that me and my little girlfriend walked. Like, first of all, I wouldn't walk that far now. And I could not believe what we did to just walk back and forth to school every day.
Yeah, because getting back to that conversation, our parents allowed us to be outside. There wasn't this overprotective.
Where parents drive their kids to the end of their driveway. That always really annoyed me. I like, seriously? You get in the car at the house and drive down your driveway. And these were not tremendously long driveways. And then they sat with you. I understand, wanting to be with your kids, but let me tell you something, like, we can wear coats and get a little cold. It's okay.
Yeah. And our kids are so resilient. Like I said, my son, he's a rock, like I said, given the right, and that's what parents need to understand. The world, what you went through, what I went through, life can throw you some severe things. But our kids are not, as fragile as eggs. They are given the right environments, the right support, the advice, they can get through anything. And that's what parents need to know.
Not just get through, they can grow through anything.
Right.
That's how we're designed. But we do have to have the modeling from our parents. We have to have this conversation, this connection, and the trust. And that's what you're saying to build.
Absolutely.
In conjunction with digesting all of this stuff on the screen, and even the dark stuff that comes is an opportunity for learning and growth, because it's there and you have to address it. You have to.
Right. Our workshop, it's an acronym, it's ALERT. But I'll give you just for your fans, the secret sauce at the very end of ALERT. The T stands for talk. That's a parent's greatest superpower. And we talked about it today just already.
Yeah.
But remember when you and I, that's what I was going with, when you and I were growing up, back when we were wearing clogs in 3 feet of snow. But if at night we woke up because we were just having nightmares or something was really bothering, what did we do? We walked down the little hallway into our parents' room,
Yeah.
and we got help. We climbed into their bed with they made us some hot cocoa or something like that. But
Yeah.
now put that situation in today's world with the screens. And if you allow your children to have that phone or iPad or game consoles, and I want to point out that I have a lot of parents say, I'm not giving them the phone, but they've given them a game console, and those things are identical, except that it's not quite as portable. But they're not, they can't, they don't go to their parents to get that help. They'll get online and hear from 3 million probably severely demented strangers to get advice about what they're going through instead of walking down.
Yeah, right. Instead of going to their parents, but I might add also there's this the groups of people that are there on the other side to prey on your children's weaknesses, actively looking for a child who is going through a hard time, so that or not to hook them and to extort them. I mean, that's, I don't even know if that's worst case scenario, but I have spoken to a few parents whose children have been victims of that. And they want to get the message out that, you know, not only, you know, everything that we're talking about here and kind of mindless consumption, but also on the other side, there are perpetrators.
I choose love.
Hey there, listeners. Are you feeling the weight of the world? Well, you're not alone. The U.S. Surgeon General says nearly 50% of parents are overwhelmed by stress. And guess what? It's affecting us all. Just last year, we heard about an epidemic of loneliness hitting half our population, especially young adults. But there's hope. I'm Scarlett Lewis, founder of the Choose Love movement. We're dedicated to your safety, health, and well-being with proactive mental health strategies. Imagine a life where stress and loneliness are replaced by joy and connection. We've already reached millions with essential life skills to prevent violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. Want to join this life-changing movement? It's easy. Visit chooselovemovement.org today. Become a member, spread the word, and access our free resources. Together, we can create a loving, supportive community. Remember, all the nurturing, healing love you give comes back to you tenfold. Thank you for choosing love.
I choose love. I choose
They're trained, you know, the old adage is where the kids are, that's where the predators will be. It used to be the, you know, playgrounds of the world. Well, now it's just the phone. Instead of having access to 1 or 2 kids on the playground, now they've got access to thousands of them. And they're just looking, like you said, for some maybe, let's just say a daughter saying, you know, my parents just don't understand me, or they won't let me have my phone. And then someone will come in and go, oh, I understand completely, those rough parents. And they start to separate the child from their parents. And then, like, hey, let's get off this platform. It's a little bit too crowded. Hey, do you mind if you and I, could we be, you know, Instagram boyfriend, girlfriend? And it takes literally probably 20 back and forth, about 20 seconds for a trained predator to say, look, you're beautiful, you should be modeling, don't worry about what your parents say, you know, send me pictures, maybe let's show me what you would look like if you and I went out on a date. You know, I got this party. Anyway, just feeding into a teenager's or a child's need to be validated and liked. We all do, but it's so intoxicating. So it's incredible to think how dangerous this is. One of the things I did with Kyle when he was growing up, to your point, to create that atmosphere of it's okay. Every time I tucked him in at night, I'd say, how is your heart? That was my question. How is your heart? Did you hear something scary today? Did you see something scary today? Did you do something great? Just open-ended questions. And he, in that course, I won't share it exactly now, but he asked me about a very adult word that he heard on his school campus, and he was going to a Christian school at the time. But luckily he did ask me and didn't go to Google for that, because if you went to Google with that word, nightmares would have arisen. So I tell parents, yes, ask them those questions. How is your heart? And then be prepared but even though as scary that is for a parent, don't you just love the fact that he was willing to tell me that, and that relationship continues to this day. It's just an open discussion about what's going on.
Okay, so how is your heart? I love that, and I'm going to use that going forward.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, it's just open-ended question. Actually, I heard it in a sermon sometime in the past, so I guess I'm borrowing it too. But it's just a great question, and it opens up, and it could be you could use that when you're in line, picking up a child at the school line. I've heard of parents who've been to our workshops before. I said, I used it. It was about, someone got bullied or something like that, and the parent asked, how would you feel, or how would we handle that in our family if that happened? And I think, like, again, our kids are, because of what they've been exposed to, they're older than we are in terms of the level of content that they've been exposed to, and they just want to talk. They just want to talk. They want to be able to digest what they've seen around them in their environment. I don't know if you have any great stories on your part about how you start those conversations, Scarlett, but it's so needed, right?
Well, I have to admit, I wasn't a big talker with my family. We played a lot of games, and we didn't have a TV. So I think I was good in that regard. And thank goodness cell phones were just coming on the scene. But I wasn't a very courageous talker at all. And that's why, even now, I think I would be uncomfortable talking about this. So I'm with anybody else who's out there listening. But the thing is, it's beyond the time where you can just kind of rest in discomfort. You have to find the courage within yourself to have these brave conversations, because this is ubiquitous, because it's all around us, and we have to fortify our children with the awareness and the skills and tools they need to move through it, because it's not a matter of if they're going to be subjected to this material, it's when it's early on. So assuming they already have, and they need a way to process.
Right. And you just stole, I don't know if you read it, but I use that exact phrase. And again, little spoiler alert, I gave you the T is talk, but the A actually stands for accept, and it has nothing to do with the kids. It's for the parents. We have to accept exactly what you just said. It's not a matter of if, it's only when. You have to accept that our kids are just as curious as we were when we were age, and we have to be there when they mess up, because they will. We have to accept that they're going to mess up. When they do, we need to be there with arms open wide, full of grace, and to welcome them and talk them through. We have to accept that the entire family has to be involved with internet safety. It can't be, and that's the difference with alert. It can't be kid-centric. It can't be the kid giving up the phone, or, like these movements now with delay, cell phone access. It has to be the entire family We have to look at our kids and say, and that's how you avoid these conflicts. You go, honey, son, whatever, what's on the internet, what we're seeing online is just as bad for us as parents, as grandparents, as it is for you. So we're going to do something about that. What we're putting on your phone, we're going to put on our phone
Oh,
too. And
that's
we're going to
so
find some,
good.
yes, we got to find, we find some healthy digital boundaries. Like we're going to say, these are the new rules. We're not going to take our phones to dinner with us. We're gonna pick some topic and we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, no phones on the table, have topics picked out already. I always
Right.
think you have your kids in front of you and you can ask them how their day was and you can ask open-ended questions. I can't. And what an opportunity that is, and never forget it and never waste it being on your phone for any reason, not even looking something up in the middle of a conversation, because what you're saying is this is more important than you.
Yeah.
And and that's a really, really good point that I want to reiterate. I sometimes have this feeling like when I'm talking to a middle school audience and I'm I'm talking to them about essential life skills and I'm looking around the edges of the room where all of the teachers are and everything. And I'm thinking, these are the exact same skills and tools and situations that we have in our own lives, that middle schoolers face. And I don't know if the adults would appreciate that, but it's true. We have relationship issues. We have bullying issues. We have phone issues. And it's like, and by the way, it's not a destination. I don't think that what you're talking about is either. It's a process. It's a journey. You never get like, oh, so I'm an expert at social emotional intelligence. So bring it on because I can,
Yeah.
it's every curveball that comes in. You go, okay, but I have some skills and tools for this and I need to pull them out and like, here they are. Which ones do I use? Even for me, and I live my life 24/7, doing this choose love and still, I get hit with curveballs and I'm like, what do I do? Or I'm asked questions.
Right.
And so I think it's important for everybody that's listening to know that both you and I are like walking the journey with them. But there is hope. And I think it's important maybe to finish on hope that it's possible to give kids you raise them with your belief system and hopefully to have a high level of character and emotional competence. And you hope that best case scenario, you're modeling this for them the majority of the time because nobody's perfect. And it's possible that they can be good consumers of, and be exposed to things, which they will be, and be able to navigate it and move through it. But there's a lot better chance if you have continuously have that connection and conversation and really educate yourself going through, for instance, your workshop that focuses on alert and how to do that. And then even if there's an issue and there's a problem, you can overcome addiction because you've done it.
There's lots of it. Yeah. I mean, these books that are out now are talking about the scientific evidence. It's neural pathways is almost not accurate anymore. It's neural troughs. If you do the same behavior over and over and over again, those neural pathways become deeper. And like you mentioned before, it's so difficult to give up, especially with the digital content or the sexual content that's digital based. It's the crack cocaine of internet. I read an article where a young man, 23, had been addicted to crack cocaine and pornography in this same amount of time. And he was asked which one was more difficult to give up. And without batting an eye, he said pornography. So I do want to leave the parents and educators out there, so like you said, hope. There is a solution. It's going to vary for every parent, and that's why I created the Alert Intensive, which is where I can coach entire families out of putting some health, teaching you how to have conversations and putting healthy digital boundaries in place. We have workshops for educators. But really, every parent, we come through three different phases, and it's kind of a fun little range. It's high tech, no tech, what the heck? High tech, low tech, what the heck? So I'm dying to put that to a rap or something like that. So initially, parents will go high tech, like they'll be super draconian, put every filter and control on a device, or not give them a device at all. I call that the Wyoming phase. And guess what? Like, Kyle was shown pornography by another kid's phone. So not having a phone himself didn't protect him. So parents get super frustrated. So then they go from high tech to no tech. You just let them go. The stuff like that, and that doesn't work because it's just the mental health and the obsession the kids go, and then they just give up. What the heck? So we go high tech, no tech. What the heck? So that's why we came along with the alert system, where it's half of it is just for the parents, and then we bring the kids in, and it's live. It's an incredible interactive discussion. I love the one-on-one though, because we can get into so much more materials. And then out of that also, if you we talked about pornography and maybe the gambling addictions and maybe even gaming addictions. I've created a separate program under digitaladdictioncoach.com that I help those individuals get out of those addictions. So there's solutions out there. There really are. And if you're high tech, no tech, what the heck? We've got a solution for you. That's what it's about, right? That's the hope we want to give people.
Absolutely. And I would think that if a parent gets a handle on their own tech first before telling their kid how to do it, so that they're authentic in their message and they're living it, I bet the outcome is even better.
Yeah, because it's really, if I'm downing a margarita while telling my son don't drink, it's not a very effective visual or method of doing it, right? So we have to own it, right?
Yeah.
It's not good for mom and I. Mommy and I, it's the content is bad. And I do get some pushback. It's mostly from the male members of the families. I'm sorry for that. But the phrase, you ain't seen what's on my phone. And that's a good discussion to have.
It is, because, and I guess the statistic that I read most recently is that almost, or maybe even over 50% of men view porn on a regular basis. Is that something
it's gone higher?
Okay, it's higher than that.
Yeah. The Barna study, they did one, a couple of years ago, and they've come out with a revised new update to compare the two studies. And it's gotten worse. And they're seeing the massive anxiety level, depression, off the scale effect of what these digital devices are doing to us. So over half the divorces in this country list digital infidelity as one of the causes, if not that cause. I want to say, I keep forgetting, it's either 56 or 57%. And that came, and it's from a personal story. When I started the digital addiction coaching, even my own, people in my own oikos said, well, that's why I divorced Uncle Frank, or, I wish you were around when my last marriage was here, right? it's like this untalked about taboo that I'm allowing people to finally get help. They won't get help because of the taboo. And I think that is, well, it's heartbreaking. I don't think it is heartbreaking. And everything is private. It's done virtually. I'm here to help. You're not alone. Like you said, the statistics are, it's also, women's statistics have gone up as well. So
Yeah.
it's not just it's a equal opportunity destroyer, men, women, and children.
Equal opportunity destroyer. And so we're on, and as I call myself and my team, and I'm going to call you too, John, boots on the ground soldiers, capital SOUL, boots on the ground soldiers in this fight for being the best version of ourselves. And that's where we're comfortable. That's where we're at peace. That's where we can be hit with anything and grow from it and become better because of it. But it takes work, it takes open communication, and it takes people like you that help people that have been through it themselves. You've been refined by the fire of all of this. You've come out on the other side. So even just having you be the one leading the coaching and the sessions with parents and kids, there's hope in that, and it's possible. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that we didn't discuss that you would like to leave with the audience today?
No, I was just thinking, I think you and I could go on for another 2 or 3 hours because there are a lot, but maybe your listeners can listen to this and then maybe send us some questions, and maybe we can do like a Q&A, like a part 2 of this discussion where we can maybe delve into your listeners' questions, and maybe we can do a walkthrough of how you come up with your own family internet safety plan or something like that. Just whatever you guys want, drop us some comments.
Yeah, drop the comments. We're going to have all the links to John and his organizations and the help that he gives so that you'll be able to contact him directly following this podcast. Thank you so much, John, for this courageous conversation, for sharing yourself with our audience. We really appreciate it. It's a really important conversation, and everybody's been blessed by your presence. Thank you.
Mission accomplished then.
Yes, mission accomplished. Thank you so much. We call this for choosing love. And
Yes.
And everybody that's listening, please pay this forward. Please share this podcast with family members, with friends. There will be somebody out there that will need this information or will know somebody that needs it. So please pay it forward and then come back for our next episode. Thank you so much.
Hey, hey, oh. It's all part of us. We can all choose love. It'll lift you up.